4 D&D tips from Star Trek TNG's 14th worst episode. The episode originally aired on April 20th, 1992, and has an IMDb rating of 6.1. It is entitled, Cost of Living. Worf and Alexander's relationship struggles, Mrs. Troy returns wanting to get married on the Enterprise, and metal parasites turn computers to goo. Despite its flaws, the episode won 2 Emmy Awards for costumes and makeup. I hated this episode when it first aired. I didn't hate it this time around, but man, it's empty and confused. Dungeon Master tip number 1, fairs and festivals. The Waxana takes Alexander to the holodeck to experience a parallax colony, which is kind of like a 24th century Burning Man, where people are free to express themselves and take nude mud baths. However, the colony lacks energy, only a few people are there. Watching them take mud baths is about as exciting as watching paint dry. But don't despair, my dear Dungeon Masters. We can put fairs and festivals in our D&D games and make them fun. Part of the excitement of a fair is the crowd. Hundreds or thousands of people and activities happening all at once. Visitors' attention is being pulled in every direction. Remember that energy when introducing a festival into your D&D campaign. I've also created a book of random tables to help you create fairs and festivals. Dungeon Master tip number 2, metal parasites. Strangely, glitter invades the Enterprise. And I say strangely because this time it's not a light ball. The glitter is actually a cloud of metal parasites. They infest the ship and begin turning it to goo, which is apparently their poop. This B-plot never connects to the main story at all, except that Mrs. Troy sees them once while on the holodeck. Now, back to D&D. DMs could use metal parasites as a blight affecting a kingdom, or if you want to terrorize players who run martial characters, just bring back the dreaded rust monster. Dungeon Master tip number 3, start with action. This episode starts off with intense action. Picard and the crew are trying to stop an asteroid from destroying a planet. Sadly, it is poorly done. No context is given, so no stakes are established. We don't know how many people live on the planet. We don't see frantic communications from the people on the planet letting us know they're all going to die. And worse, we've seen it before in Déjà Vu. Picard is given some pretty heavy science dialogue reflecting how Sir Patrick wanted the show to focus more on Picard in the later seasons. However, we can start with action in a D&D campaign and hook our players from the beginning. I made a video on how you can start sessions with action. Just remember, it needs context. As DMs, we fill in the details so players know the action means something. Dungeon Master tip number 4, foolish decisions. The Waxana is going to marry a man she's never met because she feels old and alone. It becomes clear that she and her husband-to-be are not compatible in the slightest. She is on the verge of making a terrible decision. If Dungeon Masters are looking for non-combat encounters, we can always introduce an NPC who is about to make an awful decision. Players then have the option to help the NPC understand that what they are doing will not go well. Situations that create instant drama are best for these. Marriage, as in the episode, is one example, but also consider a child running away from home, a ruler considering a death sentence, and so on. Star Trek note, this episode contains a telepath and an empath, but there is no mention of Waxana or Deanna using their abilities. Also, Geordi could have used his visor to help locate the parasites, but it wasn't used either. There you have it, 4 D&D tips from Star Trek TNG's 14th worst episode. If you need resources to help you run D&D and other RPGs, I create them. You can find the links to my books of random tables in the description below. Thank you, and keep gaming.